Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. It's Rosalie here. Today, we're going to talk about 5 signs you're awakening spiritually. I was going to do 10, but then I really wanted to pare it down and focus on top 5 signs. Number one, you can't pretend anymore. What once felt like you and the life that you lived. Maybe it's the friends you're hanging out with or the places you used to frequent. You're doing the same things, but they don't feel like a fit anymore. You show up at these places with these people, and you are beginning to feel misaligned, and you can't fake it anymore, right? You can't engage in these conversations and pretend like you're still interested in them. Um, and so, in a way, you might feel alone. You might feel isolated. You might feel misunderstood. You might even be wanting to go back to how you were before in order to maintain these connections, and the connections to old relationships and old places that are familiar to you. So, for example, that might look like attending a friend gathering where you become aware of um the same kinds of topics and conversations that have occurred, and you become even more aware now, like, wow, we're still talking about this, right? Because something has shifted within you that is no longer aligned with that frequency or level of consciousness that your friend group is operating in. And so you feel the disconnect, you feel repelled by being around them. And don't see this as there's something wrong with you, or even worse, judge yourself and think, oh, am I just thinking I'm better than them now and it's okay, I can still hold on to these. Honor that feeling within you that knows it's time to um, release these relationships, release these connections. And this might be one of the hardest things that you work through in this awakening journey is, we might have had some of these people in our life for, our entire life thus far. And so feel this level of almost guilt, like and betrayal of l- letting these relationships go. And that in itself is an inner lesson and work that you need to move through in order to fully step and accept the process of your awakening. So, recognize, like, again, this isn't you being moody or difficult or judging others. It's your soul's way of indicating to you that this is misaligned. And um, see the deeper truth within it, that you are being initiated into your authenticity. So instead of judging yourself and judging others, how can you fully accept what you're feeling is true and honor the truth of who you are and honor the truth of your soul, and take that aligned step for you, whatever that is after, whether it's limiting time or, you know, you don't have to make a full announcement about, okay, I'm not hanging out with you anymore, but it can be as simple as declining invitations. And again, that in itself, each time you take those aligned actions, you are deepening your yes to yourself, to your authenticity, to your soul growth. Um, and see it as your life isn't breaking down, you're breaking free. You're breaking free from the programming, you're breaking free from what's limiting you. All right, number two, you feel deeply disconnected from your old self, but unsure of who is emerging. So, we talked about those connections and those relationships that might you are outgrowing and might feel misaligned. And so you begin to feel like you don't even recognize who you are anymore. And at the same time, you're not quite sure what this all means, what this is all for, what you're going to do with this new wisdom and information and knowledge that you have discovered, that has been revealed to you. And that can be very scary because you're neither here nor there. And this transition phase that can feel disorienting, isolating, lonely, and sometimes in this phase, people want to like rush back to the old them and hang out with the same old people and do the same old things they've always done. But like we said in number one, you feel the misalignment, and it's to the point where you might try that. You might try hanging out with the old friends and try frequenting the old places. And then each time you do it, you just feel this, the wrench in your stomach, that your soul telling you, like, this is not aligned. And you recognize you can't ignore it anymore. It becomes undeniable. And so when that old identity doesn't fit, but the new version of you isn't fully formed yet, um, it can feel scary. It can feel like you're having a crisis, right? That's why, hence, midlife crisis. Um, but recognize that this is you stepping into a new timeline, you stepping into a new frequency, and creating from this limitless space of anything is possible. And because we're human, we don't like the unknown. We tend to not like the unknown. We want what's familiar, what's safe, what's comfortable. And so in this area, we might try to rush things ahead, and we might try to um, drive ourselves crazy, try to figure out what this all means and make sense of it in a very, linear way that makes sense to the mind. Um, but part of the process of awakening is sitting in the unknown and becoming comfortable with it. And sitting in that void, a lot of people like to say that void, and being comfortable with it, and recognizing that the void and the unknown isn't a lack of something. It's actually the limitless potential that you are now activating and acknowledging and stepping into in order to create this new life for yourself and this new way of being. So recognize that the unfamiliar, the unseen, the unknown is not wrong. It's grounds for transformation. So again, the old self is falling away, is dying, and you are rising into your truth. Number three, your emotions are louder and harder to suppress. So you might feel, very emotional. You might cry more easily. You're feeling all the feelings. Maybe wounds that you've buried for a long time ago are starting to rise to the surface without you even realizing it. And, even good things, bad things, all the things make you very sensitive and emotional. I might make you cry, and recognize that you're not falling apart. You're purifying, right? Um your awakening is leading to this expansion of your consciousness, where those old dense energies are coming and rising up to this meet you at this higher frequency that you're embodying, and they are ready to be released because you're able to hold them and witness them and recognize that those aren't you, right? And you're clearing out all the emotional residue that's in your system. And recognize the tears, right? When you think of tears and water, and that's very purifying for yourself and for your soul. And instead of thinking, "Oh my gosh, what's happening to me?" Am I like, um, am I going crazy? Or like, I'm maybe overly emotional and sensitive, and Recognize that you are releasing and you're being restored and you're being made anew. So what you feel is what's being. Number four, you crave more solitude and silence, and you might not know why. So you pull away from constantly being around other people. You pull away from maybe overly consuming, your media. Um, you decline social invitations, even from people that you've been close to, or usually just say yes to because they're your friends and that's what you normally do. And instead of spending all that time, how you used to, maybe you're just spending quiet time at home alone, or you're going out into nature, and you're doing a lot of self-reflective things like journaling or just pondering and just being with yourself. And this is the aspect of your waking where your soul is calling you inward, is calling you, and you're paying more attention to your own intuitive wisdom and guidance that's within you. It's getting to awaken and get louder, and you're becoming more attuned to your energy. Um, and so you need this stillness around you with not a lot of stimulation to familiarize yourself again with how you access your intuitive wisdom. And it's hard to do that when there's you're filling your calendar up and um, doing all these things and being overstimulated by um, consuming all this media and noise, basically, right? So the isolation is not meant to for loneliness or not meant to as a punishment. It's really initiation. You're stepping through this threshold of um, becoming even more familiar with yourself, with your soul, with your connection with source. That when you do re-enter, the world and all the things that are going on in the world, you hold your frequency and you hold your truth and you have that connection to source that is unshakable and that you are familiar with and that and so you can let your soul guide you, not just in the stillness, but in the chaos too. Um, so remember, this quiet period, this quiet time is where you can hear your soul and your intuition and God, source, all that is very clearly, and familiarize yourself with that, with it again, and deepen that connection, so that again, when you go out into spaces where it might not be so quiet, you can still have that connection and hear that inner knowing and voice that will guide you. All right, number five, you start sensing a deeper meaning behind everything, even in pain. So, you might feel, moving forward when you encounter something that is challenging or painful or um, not idea, instead of complaining and loathing and falling into victimhood, you notice and you have the awareness and the capacity to hold it, and know that it's for your greatest good, and recognize that even though you might not understand fully what's happening, it's for your best outcome. And even if it's uncertain, even if it's unclear, and you start noticing all the different synchronicities and spiritual nudges and indicators that you're on the right path, and you trust in this divine timing. Whereas before you might have been stressed out and let it over consume you, and but on this end you have a deeper trust, you have a deeper sense of faith that it's all working out, and you feel empowered to take that on and to move through it knowing you're always being supported and that you're fully loved and whole. um, Because again, awakening shifts you from victimhood into vision, into creatorship, into your power, and you recognize that you have this radical self responsibility for what you create in the world and what you are experiencing in your world, and you view this through the lens of you're not being punished. Like if there's something super challenging that comes up, you recognize that it's not because you're being punished, not because God has abandoned you, not because they're trying and God is trying to teach you a lesson. You recognize that even in your deepest, your darkest trials and pains, that there is that on the other end of that is a deepening in your faith, in your connection to source, and your connection to God, into deepening your own self trust. So while it might be very painful on the front end in the beginning, you hold that greater awareness and faith and willingness to surrender to what is happening, because you know that it's meant for you and your highest good. Um, and so throughout that process of, you know, moving through these tough times and evolving and expanding your consciousness even more, instead of asking, like, why me and why is this happening and da, 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 you have that deeper wisdom and knowing to ask, what is this showing me? What am I meant to learn from this? How am I participating in creating this experience? And instead, use it to fine tune um, and help direct your being so that you can continue to empower yourself and create the experience that you desire. So, yeah, those were the top five that I picked, and hopefully some of these resonated with you. Um, and know that, during this season of awakening, and it's not just one time awakening, right? There's layers and layers of it. Um, Recognize that this is for you. And people might hear awakening and think, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. And everything must be so good for you then. And you never have any problems. And it's never about that. It's never about reaching this um, ideal state where nothing bad ever happens, right? It's just when you're awakening and when you're expanding your level of consciousness, you hold the capacity um, to move through things in a more empowered and easeful way, instead of spiraling down into self pity and victimhood, right? And this whole process is really to continue to um, fortify and strengthen who we know ourselves to be on a um, on a on a divine level, who we know ourselves to be. And this process of awakening continues to help us deepen that knowing and that realization um, of that truth for ourselves. And so, again, let me know if these resonated with you, maybe which ones you're working through or I mean, identify with in your own journey. I know for me, each of these hit home like very much so through my own journey, and um know that you're not alone, know that you're not the only one going through this, know that this is a season and a process and a transition, and you will get through this, and there will be so much more peace and joy and understanding and love on the other side. um and yeah, have that faith and that trust that this is for you and this is um, for your highest good and the highest good of everyone involved. Okay. So again, I hope this helped. I will talk to you guys later. Um, excuse me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.